Ladies and gentlemen, pay attention. This is your boy, the coach from the WWE. I would like to welcome you to the very first wrestling podcast in the world to take you on a weekly deep dive into classic matches along with legends of the squared circle. Enjoy the discussion. Enjoy the back and forth. There's so much to get into. Ladies and gentlemen, this is The Payoff.
Welcome to an all-new episode of The Payoff. I'm Tom. That's Jeff. We're covering one of my all-time favorites. We're covering the Rockers, Marty Jannetty, Shawn Michaels. I mean, this is it for me, man. As a kid, 1990, I'm 6 years old. And if you said, who are your favorites? I'd say Hulk Hogan and the Rockers. I mean, that was it. My favorite wrestler, my favorite tag team. These guys, I still think in the folklore of wrestling, they're underrated. And the Hart Foundation are one of the greatest tag teams of all time too. So this gonna be a really fun episode. Any reason that you picked this, or was it just to appease me?
Yeah, a little bit of both. Yeah, this is, we've got a Saturday Night Main Event for me in a couple of weeks here with Hulk Hogan and the Boss Man. But this was at the end of last year, start of this year, when I was just going through and kind of adding, a bunch of matches to our list. Like, we didn't have a whole lot of these Saturday Night Main Events. And so kind of looking through to see what was out there and kind of what was available and just, what were some of the fun matches, I guess. Like, this is one, it's almost crazy to be like, yeah, like the Rockers and Hart Foundation had this match on Saturday Night Main Event. You're like, wait, what? Like, okay, and just kind of doing that. And so, yeah, like there were a lot of good matches that were there and kind of coming out of those shows. And so, one for you, one for me. And so, yeah, that's what we're doing here with some Saturday Night Main Event.
Let's do it, man. Let's get right into the build.
Oh, it's time for the build.
So Saturday night's main event, this one aired on April 28th, 1990. We're in Austin, Texas. I remember watching these. I mean, this was like, you watch it live or record it. I mean, these were NBC. Yeah. I mean, it was a big deal, to be on NBC. And I think they led right into Saturday Night Live. And 1990 Saturday Night Live was a big deal, right? I mean, it was one of the golden eras of the show.
It's a fun card too. Yeah.
It's a really fun card. So about 8,500 in attendance at this one. And when did it? Okay, so they recorded it 5 days prior. Again, it's just so funny to think about. Like, well, no one would have known what happened. Right? Like, no one would have known the results. It's like you're watching it live. We start off with Hulk Hogan defeating Mr. Perfect in 8 minutes. I always found it interesting. Like, if you look at because it was a different business back then, so you didn't have monthly pay-per-views. So, I mean, Hulk Hogan versus peak Mr. Perfect, it could have headlined a WrestleMania. I mean, really, it could have. And certainly, if not a WrestleMania, a Backlash or a SummerSlam or a Money in the Bank, right? I mean, these 12 pay-per-views. So a lot of the feuds, I mean, you look at like Hulk Hogan and Earthquake, Hulk Hogan and the Big Boss Man, those were pay-per-view main events. And so it's like, I feel like we would look at those feuds differently if, in front of, 60,000 people at a baseball stadium at the Royal Rumble, Hulk Hogan defeated the Big Boss Man in a blue cage match. Yep. But you would look at that feud completely differently than, I think they main evented a Saturday night's main event at one point. So I always found that interesting. The other thing I always found interesting too is all the rematches you would have gotten. So Hogan Warrior, we never got the rematch. Hogan Savage, we never, they did some other stuff, maybe like on a Saturday night's main event, but it's not like, Hogan defeats Savage at WrestleMania. Savage gets his win back at Backlash, and then to kill the trilogy at King of the Ring. I mean, right? So I always found that interesting too, how those feuds may be viewed differently and really how many, they wouldn't have all worked out, but Hogan Warrior. Is that feud better if there's a trilogy that ends in a Hell in a Cell? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. Or maybe because we had to come up with 3 matches, in that third match, Hogan turns heel. And then what? So, anyways, so Hogan defeats Perfect. Earthquake defeats Hillbilly Jim in 2 minutes. Squash match, we're building Earthquake. Then our Hart Foundation Rockers match. Then the Ultimate Warrior, who's our World Heavyweight Champion, is going to defeat Haku in 4 minutes to retain his title. And then Big Boss Man's going to defeat Akeem in 3 minutes by DQ. So it's interesting how they structure these matches. You put your biggest star, Hulk Hogan, in first. You put your world title match in second to last. It was interesting. So that's the show, man. I mean, talk about a fun hour. Right. I think hour, right? So, no, I'm sorry, hour and a half probably, because the runtime on the network is 106. So I'm guessing with commercials, it was a 90-minute show. So really, really, really fun show. I'd actually like to go back. Maybe this weekend I'll go back and watch this entire show, just because sometimes it's fun to watch the entire show because of what they're promoting and the backstage interviews and the commentary. And these Saturday Night's main events are actually really fun shows to go back and watch. I've done it a few times.
So yeah, this should be a good one. Yeah, it's really interesting too, like you said, kind of how they laid this out, kind of what you were doing. Yeah, you figure too, like there's a lot of promos on these two, and so shorter matches. So maybe, I don't know, is it maybe a 2-hour taping though? Like you figure there's probably a dark match we don't know about. Like, yeah, who knows? But anyway, so these two teams, not a ton of run-ins with each other up until this point, but the Rockers kind of feuding with the Brain Busters, had a little bit of back and forth with the Powers of Pain, of course. That would be the Barbarian and Warlord. Kind of capping off, they the Brainbusters, they had some matches on Saturday Main Event with those guys as well too, as a 2 or 3 falls, just kind of some fun matches, some interesting matches that were happening kind of before this though, in the lead up to this, at the Rumble, both guys in the Rumble, Marty and Sean, but neither one winning, being eliminated by the Ultimate Warrior and the $1 Million Man, and so each guy. So on the flip side, the Hart Foundation at WrestleMania 5, the Harts beat Honky Tonk Man and Greg the Hammer Valentine on that one. SummerSlam, and that was a year previous. SummerSlam 89, they took on the Brain Busters on that one. They kind of split for a little bit, did some singles run at this point too, that kind of late 89. Brett, of course, having the match with Mr. Perfect. Jim Neidhart having a match against the Warlord and feuding with him for a little bit. So you could kind of still see the aftermath of these guys being in tags and stuff like that and kind of dealing with that. But then late 89 of them reteaming as the Hart Foundation as well too, having a bunch of matches at this point. So like I said, they didn't have a ton of run-ins, but they were having matches. One of the biggest thing here was they were both faces at this time, and so that was something that was a little weird. And kind of how they were doing this was, you normally would have your faces and your heels, but both of these groups at the time, were fan favorites. They were kind of, they were always cheered. And so to see them in the ring together is just interesting as well, too. Now, this too was, who knows how much Sean and Brett hated each other at this point, but at the same time, like, this is the very kind of early days of that, and so these guys kind of having these matches and getting into it. So I mean, just they were the tag division, they were having some matches, nothing too crazy, but that's how we got here, plain and simple.
Well, I'm pumped to cover this one. It should be really good. We're at the 29-minute mark of season 6, episode 3. Saturday Night's Main Event, April 28th, 1990. Jeff, are you ready?
Yeah, I got it pulled up. Let's do this.
Dude, I'm pumped for this one.
Yeah, me too.
All right, it's time for the payoff.
Oh, it's time for the payoff.
All right, here we go. Marty just immediately throws Brett into a headlock. I mean, this is just going to be a fast-paced match.
Marty moving
Spoiler
fast.
alert!
Yeah.
Spoiler alert! It goes like 9 or 10 minutes, so there's going to be just a lot of action here. I mean, God, they're moving fast. You know, you
They're
got
moving real fast. Yep.
Bret Hart moving fast, Marty and Shawn, big anvil coming in. I mean, big splash reverses it. I mean, I am just fixated on this match, man. This is going to be really good. Obviously, great rockers. There were no bad rockers gear, but this was some of my favorites. I think,
yeah.
I think this yellow may have been an action figure at some time or something close to it. Yellow with a little bit of purple in there, dude. Anvil, bat out of freaking hell,
double
just
kip
comes
up
in
from the rocker. That was
clotheslines both of them.
I think Marty is. I don't know who the legal man is. There's a tag. Who knows? Anyways,
so I'm gonna ask you two questions here.
Sure.
And this is, since we'll call this a tag team themed episode of the payoff.
Sure.
There's two questions for you, and I'll give you time to answer, and I'll answer them first since I knew I was going to ask this. I want to know. God, this match is just really good. I want to know who your favorite tag team ever is. And then I want to know who you think the best tag team ever is. So, favorite tag team ever for me is an easy one. It's the Rockers. They're my favorite. You know, I like the outfits. I like the way they were. I, wish they would have gotten the titles and even had a bigger push, but really, really good stuff. And I mean, this match is just awesome. Okay, so that's an easy one for me. Is there an easy one for you just in terms of who your favorite tag team ever is?
My favorite, and they came to my mind immediately, and it was because of their look. It was because of their size. For me, my favorite growing up, and I never got a set of the spiked pads, would be the Legion of Doom. Like
fair enough.
Just great, like, I thought they were just so cool, and the theme and the pad, like just the coolest look, and their finisher was great. Like, so I immediately jumped to them for being my favorites, no question.
Okay, so then the second question, which still subjective but maybe a little bit more objective, is who do you think the greatest tag team of all time is? Harder question.
Yeah.
There's like, I think probably 10 to 20 different tag teams that you could name. The two for me, and again, this is really, really tough. So there's a lot of different answers to this. I think one of them is Legion of Doom Road Warriors.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't like a massive mark of them, but man, they did big business. They were super over. They had the look. I mean, there's a lot of Road Warrior stuff that I never even saw. I mean, I'm a WWF guy, so I think more, what a rush, Legion of Doom. The other one that and maybe it's just, recency bias, but I think when it's all said and done, the Usos might be in that category.
Yeah.
And, a lot of great matches, main eventing a WrestleMania. Who knows what's still to happen? Part of one of the greatest angles of all time in the Bloodline. So I have them there. But you could argue so many different ones. You could argue the Dudleys. You could argue the Young Bucks. You could argue a lot of others. So when I say greatest tag team, what comes to mind for you?
Yeah, it's hard to not think the Usos. I think the New Day too. In regard, it's and it's subjective here at this point because you start talking about who here comes Demolition out to the ring. Greatest, like, is it championships? Is it influence? Is it all this other stuff? If we're looking at that, like, it is probably the Usos. It could be the New Day. And kind of
parties, Edge and Christian.
Yeah. And so, for me, like, when you first said, when I first started thinking of greatest, like, those were actually the names that came to my mind was the Hardys and not Edge and Christian are good, but actually the Dudley boys. Now
Yep.
that's a weird choice, but also like they are, how they. I'm taking it from an influence standpoint, and so, and I think that like that's how I'm judging. Where was it the best in ring? No, but maybe Edge and Christian are up there. But I feel like you have to have those three up there as well too. But if I had to pick one, if you're making me pick one, I would probably say the Usos as well. Like, and I know that list got so much shit when WWE put it out, the greatest tag teams or whatever it was. But also like, I haven't seen enough of their body of work. Like, there's like the Young Bucks, there's an argument there. Like, I don't like their work in AEW, but they, what they did in the, coming up in the indies and how much time they were there, like, there's a lot there too. Like, it's hard to not, say that, I just haven't seen enough too of like the Rock and Roll Express or Midnight Express to say, hey, yeah, like that greatest ever. Like, that's hard, but I'm right there with you. Yeah. It's just, so trying to get the hot tag to Marty. Don't say that very often. There you go. There you go. Yeah. Crowd looks excited though. Yeah. They're still moving real fast. You had Demolition come out, interfere a little bit. And they're just kind of standing ringside at this point.
It's just even like by today's standards, this just looks fast. And I mean that in a good way, but like, it's just like they're cooking.
You don't get that very often nowadays. Like, it's hard. And so giant super kick from Marty. That was great. Yep.
So he did not finish Bret Hart off there. I'm just guessing the velocity of his kick is not as strong as Sean's.
Well, he didn't tune the band up. Like, you gotta, it's just
more of a running start. Yeah. I mean, that's the other thing,
not the finisher. Too. Yeah, absolutely. So, but just fast action, fast pace. You got to figure too, like they probably really enjoyed all working together. Like, I know that eventually you get into, Sean and Brett and all that stuff. But at the same time, like we've said it before on the show, and I'll say it again, like that. Some people, they just have the, like, in the ring together, like they're just so seamless. It's so smooth. You figure it's like, hey, we're like, here's the two spots we need to make sure to do, but then we're going to go out and do a 15-minute match. Like, and however we get there, we get there. Ooh, that looked rough from, off the top rope, anvil. Yeah.
I'd have to think more about it, but I bet you in the history of like tag teams where one or both guys became a huge singles star, like, yep. Bret Hart didn't really change anything, right? It's the same it's the same gear, it's the same music, it's the same everything. Like, he just and made a decade career on top out of it. Kind of interesting. I mean, Sean obviously way different presentation. I mean, Edge obviously became something different. Jeff Hardy, pretty much the same, I guess. Maybe modernized it a bit, but it's just funny that like, the Bret Hart that headlined WrestleMania a few years after this was the same exact guy.
Yeah. Right.
All right. So, that's nice. So Demolition kindly is going to pick up,
trying to help Sean back into the ring here, but Marty having none of
those are just scary dudes, right? Like Demolition, like his kids, they terrified me. Okay.
Compared to everybody else, they're huge.
Okay, so now Demolition's in the ring. Yep. This has just gotten out of control. Joey Morella is gonna have to call the bell here.
Yeah, he did. And so now we got all 6 men brawling in the ring at this point. Everybody's fighting each other. Yep.
Oh, you'll tell us in the aftermath where we're going with this.
Yep.
But what a match.
Yeah, it was up until this point. Yeah, really good.
I mean, and I know it's easy to like see. It's just different. It's just a different era because like you didn't have 3 hours of Raw on Monday. You didn't have pay-per-views every month. But like I look at this right here in the ring, and I'm like, dude, this is a main event. Like you could have, like fantasy book this. The main event of a PLE for the tag titles is Rockers and Hart Foundation in a ladder match, or in a steel cage match. I mean, like, right? Like, these tag teams at this era, they could have headlined anything.
Just really good stuff. Yeah.
Like really good stuff, right? Like, again, they didn't have, you only had a couple pay-per-views a year, and Hulk Hogan was going to be in the main event. The Warrior was going to be in the main event. Randy Savage, I get that. But it's like, man, these tag teams in the 80s, if you had more inventory of pay-per-views, 2 nights of WrestleMania, how could you have not headlined, with a tag team? The Intercontinental title was a big deal. You could have headlined with that. Like, there's just a lot of stuff that, like, I think was better than maybe we remember it or look at it, simply because there wasn't the inventory of main event spots and TV time that there is now. Now you get all this stuff.
A quick rundown of some of the tag teams. I just pulled up, like, this is top 50 tag teams in the 80s. And just to rattle off some of these: Road Warriors, Hart Foundation, Demolition, Mega Powers, Rockers, British Bulldogs, Freebirds, Von Erichs, Rick and Scott Steiner, Wild Samoans. That's just the top 15. And I didn't even list everybody. And so it's crazy when you start thinking about, like, Sting and Luger on here as well too. Like, it's almost crazy to think about like you said, you knew Hogan was going to be the top, but the talent that was there was insane.
Insane.
Yep.
Absolutely insane. And I think if you had the TV time, the feuds would have even been better. Imagine if, the Hart Foundation could cut a 10-minute promo where the Rockers interrupt and they're face-to-face in the ring during an episode of Raw.
Yeah.
What story could they have told?
Yeah.
It's insane. You just didn't have the time. You didn't have the TV time to do it. It's not a knock on them. You just couldn't do it. Now, you can do that stuff. Doesn't always mean it's a good thing. A hell of a lot of TV. It's tough to watch, but you look at, Usos versus Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. I think you could have gotten 20 programs like that in the 80s with all those different tag teams. You do a David and Goliath of the Rockers and a heel Demolition team. Oh,
right.
So really, really good stuff. That's a fun conversation. Let's get into the aftermath.
Ho! It's time for the aftermath.
Yeah. So what did you think of the match?
The match, fast. Like, that's all I keep thinking. Yeah. It was really fast, but it was
good fast, not spotty fast. Like,
a lot of good action. Like, it was just worth it. And so that's the best way to put it. And so I'm really happy with that. So this one, of course, Demolition getting involved in this one. But then you go to SummerSlam 1990, the Hart Foundation taking on Demolition. It was a 2 out of 3 falls count match for the title. You had them introducing Crush at this point too. And so that was part of the storyline, is you didn't know who was going to be in the match. You had Crush and Smash at this point. The Hart Foundation winning this one, though, even though the second fall was a DQ, that one did go to the Hart Foundation, and the Hart Foundation winning that one. The Rockers, though, they would take on the Orient Express. They had a long feud that led into WrestleMania 6. They continued that feud for a long time as well, too. As well as the Royal Rumble. We've covered that match, the Rockers and the Orient Express. It is in the Payoff archive, so go back, kind of check that one out. I'd forgotten that we covered that one, but I always double check, and so I'm glad I did. And so we had that. And so this is weird. Like, in '89, there wasn't a whole lot of write-ups going on, so there isn't a whole lot of information out there. Even PWI was doing, like, monthly stuff. It was weird. But Bret, the one thing I did find was during this time, Bret Hart and Jim Neidhart were being called the 6th best tag team. So when the Hart Foundation, Bret Hart and Jim Neidhart are the 6th best tag team, Like that just seems crazy to me. And so, but Tom, I don't have any stars on this one. I don't have any ratings on this one. And so, but I will throw it to you. What are you giving this one for your payoff score?
Well, I mean, I'm giving it a 7, which just because, I mean, it was a shorter match and like, I love this. I just thought it was so cool. You give them 15 minutes and a clean finish, and I mean, it's like a 9 for me. I really liked it though. And again, they're building to something else. It's a TV show, so you're not going to get the 20-minute pay-per-view classic. But I just can't help but, and I'll just say it one more time, I can't help but think if they had the inventory of TV time and PLE time then that they have now, I mean, this could have been an all-time feud, all time.
Yeah, absolutely. Just crazy. Like, kind of what could have happened here. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm at a the match itself, whatever. Like, I was going to give it a 6.5 because I feel like, it's fine. But it was a good match. But that's a 6 because I just feel like it's not worthy of a 7. But still, it doesn't mean it's not bad though. Yeah, not bad though at all. Like, it's just because it was just a kind of middling ground match. And so, but yeah, nothing wrong with that though. So yeah, okay. All right, with that, we got what do we got on the list here? I'm trying to look here. So Backlash, of course, happening this week, Saturday. So we're gonna do one more Backlash match. And then we're kind of bouncing around. We got a whole bunch of different stuff. What I got, of course, our Saturday night main event. We got a Shawn Michaels Kurt Angle match for you.
I bet that match is good.
Yeah, we got that one coming up. I've got, because I wanted to throw it back a little bit, we've got from the Fatal 4-Way pay-per-view, we got Drew McIntyre versus Kofi Kingston. That's baby Drew McIntyre. Looks nothing like he does nowadays. And so kind of interesting. And then just, we got a full summer planned already. I got a lot of stuff out there, of course. Another Cody Rhodes match I see on here. Got an Owen and Shawn match from Monday Night Raw. That one should be good. And so, all kinds of good stuff coming up here. But, want to remind everybody, of course, as I do every week, manscaped.com, payoff, 20% off, free shipping. Use that code payoff, getting all that good stuff, whether it's the lawnmower, the weed whacker, whatever they've got. I've got their beard oil now, they got their beard hedger. All of us with our COVID beards still want to look good. And so make sure you're using all that stuff. Manscaped.com, load that card up, whatever you want. And then when it says, enter code here, apply code payoff, getting you 20% off and free shipping, everything that you threw in that cart. So with that, Tom, let's send them home happy.
Yeah. And I'll just, I still have yet to try a Manscaped product that I didn't really like, so even, and again, you figure out what you need or like. If you don't have a beard, don't get the beard stuff. But, the shampoo and conditioner is excellent. Obviously the lawnmower, the handyman, there's a lot of good stuff, and I haven't even used it all. I mean, there's some stuff I still haven't even tried yet. There's just a regular single blade shaver. I haven't tried that yet. So it's really good quality stuff. It's built well. So anyways, check it out. This was a fun episode. We got some really good stuff coming up. And as always, thank you everyone for listening to this episode of The Payoff, and we'll see you next week.